Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Sonic Movie Show, the only show that's about Sonic news, movie news, and Sonic movie news. My name is Ethan, and with me here one last time for Sonic Frontiers is Devin.
And torturing Sonic just to pass the time, that's low, even for Eggman.
Tell me that was not a quote from Sonic Forces.
It is. I'm just dishing you out the Sonic Forces quotes to get you hyped up for the new one.
Torturing Sonic just to pass the time. That is such a G-rated, we need to be edgy, like, he was tortured on the moon or in a space station
somewhere
for
in
half
space.
a year. God,
they quickly said that, and then they just moved on. And he was and Sonic was not scarred at all. They didn't even
not even emotionally.
Yeah, he was just the exact same person he was when he went up there or wherever. I forget what the context was. Yeah, but he gets captured, tortured for half a year, and he comes back. He's like, "We gotta stop Eggman." It's like, wait, hold up, are you okay?
That level trying to escape that place sucked. I remember us playing that forever, getting stuck on that. We played Sonic Forces once together as a family. It took us, I swear, 4 hours. That's how sad it was. If you think about
high
it,
or drunk either. It did take 4 straight hours,
and we weren't great at it. But 4 hours, yeah, no bueno.
Spent what was it, $50, $40?
I definitely got it on sale. I didn't get it right away because I'm the writing's on the wall with this game. I mean, now Metacritic showed that it was bad at the point. I'm like, okay, I don't think this is a game for me. I'm gonna wait for it's on sale. I still have that case somewhere with the PS4 controller sticker.
Oh, that's
it's
right.
Stupidest. That's definitely I need to get the kids to buy it. And actually on the PlayStation Store right now, there's a sale where you can get Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and Team Sonic Racing on sale for $20. I think
2 out of 3 of those I think are worth it.
Yeah, Sonic Mania is fun. Sonic Team
Racing.
Racing.
I generally liked the racing.
Huh.
I did the whole story, and that says something.
I think Sumo Digital made that game, so it wasn't even a Sega.
I did
Sonic
like drifting
team.
in that game.
I mean,
than the Mario Kart.
Once you go to Tokyo, what you gonna do? Not drift? It is weird to see people. I showed Tokyo Drift to people for the first time, in chronology with the rest of the Fast and Furious a while ago, and these people didn't know what drifting was. They thought it was a unique thing to this movie. I'm like, I thought that was just car. I remember playing Need for Speed Underground on my PS2. You did that shit.
It tells you how to drift. There's always that part of the tutorial when you do any sort of car game, driving game.
That's literally all what Ridge Racer is.
Hold down square or whatever.
Exactly.
Brake.
Exactly. Brake and then let go of the thing, and then yeah. I mean, Mario Kart. That's how you get
charge
speed
up
boosts.
Your drift. Yeah.
I mean, this is what happens when you drive, a Ford Focus, right? You're not exactly having that cartoon up culture. Sonic Frontiers isn't necessarily cartoon up culture, but we don't have to wait to find out if it truly is or not, because it's around the corner, November 8th, I believe it was. My Amazon copy says I will get it on the 21st, and that's lame. Maybe I'll play God of War instead. I said I was going to actually finish that first game. I haven't touched it. I'm playing Death Stranding for Since Stranding episode there. I've been reminded of all the stranding times I've had.
All the times you could be stranding.
Yep. I'm still stranding. Yeah, Sonic Frontiers is around the corner. We've had a couple new trailers and stuff over the past few months, including this one that's about combat and upgrades that has a mix of 30 and 60 FPS segments in it, which worries me, like the last trailer. Let's talk about that one and just our general thoughts about the game itself, right?
Yeah, and there's been reviews that have come out at this point, but we're doing an episode after this one, kind of just covering not what our opinions are about or we'll be covering all the different scores and whatnot that are coming out. We'll look at Metacritic, IGN, Kotaku, all of them, and then we'll give our thoughts on that. So this is just based off what we saw from the trailers. We've avoided leaks to the best of our abilities. We've avoided headlines talking about the game. So this is just us, what we've seen from the trailers they've shown us or from what they've sent on Twitter or whatnot. Yeah, I feel like just looking at this combat and upgrades trailer, just face value for me, I'm actually a little bit more excited about that aspect of it because I feel like that was one issue we've had in the past when we've seen like this open world concept, is that it feels very empty, or it feels like, why would I fight something when I can just go on to the next spring, go to the next rail, or go to the next section, wherever I need to go. But after the last couple months, they've been showing a little bit more and more, and I feel like this is the trailer they should have shown from the get-go, because I feel like that would have helped a lot with their publicity, with like the PR of this game. Because I feel like the first couple teasers that they showed us didn't really like hit hard or hit home for a lot of people. Even the people who maybe are more optimistic than us, even then they were like, hopefully this is just like old builds. And I feel like from this, what we've seen just generally makes me feel a little bit better. That I'm like, maybe it's also been us, spoiler alert, we're maybe for 150 we're doing a little episode about Sonic 2006. Maybe it's from playing that game that this looks amazing. I don't know. But no, yeah, I feel like just for me, like face value, this looks it looks more interesting to me, like the combat and the upgrades and stuff.
Yeah, in my opinion, something must have clicked in my head where all of a sudden now I actually think the combat looks surprisingly weighty and somewhat fun. I think the movement and momentum, or I guess maybe still lack thereof, but the movement of Sonic in that world, trying to navigate around enemies and whatnot, just somehow, at least in this edited trailer, feels a bit better than those IGN first, gameplay segments. I don't necessarily know how much I like the idea of Sonic having a skill tree. It looks like he has a skill tree, not multiple. It looks like one skill tree, which almost makes me think it's kind of funny, since it's not really a tree. It's more of a straight line with optional things to get.
You're going to get everything, though, by the end.
Right. Like, video game skill trees in the past 15 years are just so basic. If they're either very simple or they're complex, but they allow you to get everything, and therefore it's just a time sink. How much do you want to get everything? You're not making decisions.
It doesn't feel like you're really making a big decision. If you grind enough, you will be able to get everything. I feel like Cyberpunk, for me, is a good example of that, where I'm like, no, I want to play a person who shoots guns and like knows how to use every type of weapon. Not necessarily melee, but just I'm going to run around and shoot people. And I tried to like only do that. But it did feel like if I really wanted to grind, I could just do the robot arms. I could do the sword wielding. I could do, all these other things if I wanted to. But I've seen a lot worse too with what you're saying, where it is just like 10 things, and then you get 10. You need all 10 anyways to beat the final boss.
Yeah, like I feel like the Batman games have had shit like that, where it's like, all right, it just feels like the open world, or maybe just modern game sensibilities version of just your end level rewards. You finish the level, here's your new weapon. You finish this Zelda dungeon, or halfway through you get an item, and then, you use that on the final boss. Like, feels like the modern equivalent of that, of like, well, the equivalent of a level in our open world game is a certain amount of time spent, so you'll get enough skill points in that amount of time to get a thing. We've formulated the perfect ratio of time spent to reward, or whatever, right? Like, could you in the opening area just grind out all these, I think they literally call them skill points, or skill something or other, can you just do that and then just hit all the abilities before you even really get to some of the meatier parts of the game?
Mean, yeah, it makes you think.
I would think they should let you,
but I think there's only, maybe you can get a lot more skill points by going to the harder spots. They also mentioned that every time you get a new skill, the enemies become harder, which I'm like, okay, that's cool, because I don't want to be like, I gotta go grind these easy enemies. Like, I want that to be almost a challenge.
Yeah.
Not too challenging where grinding sucks really bad, but I also don't want the latter where like grinding's so easy, but like I need 100 of these boring things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you need to find that balance of difficulty and replayability. You know what I mean?
There is
for something like where you're trying to grind to get this thing.
Yeah, game balance in that sense is tough, because, and especially in RPGs, whether they be video game or tabletop, you want your players to be able to feel like they are getting more powerful and are more capable while also making the challenge stronger. But you could look at it, if done poorly, as they are not getting more powerful because the world just grows with them and it's more complicated, which is fun in many regards, but is the power sense really, there? But you also don't want them to be able to nuke Sonic's world. There is a Final Fantasy game called Final Fantasy VIII. I have not played too much of it. In that game, enemies scale and level alongside your party. That's kind of cool, but in practice, if you dissect the game, anyone that's beaten the game kind of knows about the fact that the game is easier and technically more fun. Well, I admit that's subjective. It's technically easier to play if you avoid leveling up, because enemies won't get stronger spells and shit if they're low level. So you stay as low level as possible and you breeze through the game, even though it should technically seem like the opposite, because the idea of the modern day video game RPG kind of stems to Dragon Quest, and the idea was even when you lose, you still gained. You lost half your money, I think, in that game, but you kept all your experience points. So if you could just keep hammering at the wall, eventually you knock it down, right? And I know there's that somewhat maligned quote people use that Miyamoto says he doesn't like RPGs because all you have to do is hammer at the wall. There's no skill. I don't think the man really cares too much about skill. He likes making fun games. But still, that's where RPGs kind of stem from, the idea of, well, if I just keep doing this, I'll get strong enough that I don't need to be really good at the game or be really knowledgeable on the systems to make it work. For Sonic, I guess they kind of need to have them all scale up with Sonic, but I don't necessarily know if some of these weaker enemies you see him homing, attacking, and knocking out instantly all of a sudden need to take 50 homing attacks or are the super awesome thing, because does that slow down Sonic's platforming and speed-based gameplay? Does all of a sudden the early areas feel slow because you have to stop and go on each one? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I like that in this trailer, though, they are showing all the different ones that you can get. There's one that I actually saw on Twitter. Someone mentioned that reminds them of what Sonic does in the first Sonic movie, where he kind of goes so quick that he bounces off the enemy. At laser speed, so he's doing a lot of damage. I think it's called Phantom Rush, I believe, that they're showing.
Oh, okay.
I can see that resemblance. I thought that was cool. Yeah, it looks like there's multiple options, and maybe it's you'll find out which enemies require that. I mean, there's certain enemies you can't beat unless you have that skill, which will be interesting. And I remember this game is also for younger audiences. So
yes.
I don't know
the future.
They got to be careful because when I was a kid, there's sometimes you just didn't realize you had to do this one. You can't beat this enemy. I don't want a kid to get frustrated that he can't beat this and he thinks he needs to beat this enemy, but he just can't because he doesn't have the right skill thing. You know what I mean? I wonder if they're gonna have something in place, be like, Sonic says, I don't think I have the skill to do that yet, or something. Whatever. You know what I mean? I wonder if they'll have that. But my concern with that kind of stuff, though, is that you're relying on the player to realize that, and not every player is going to know that unless you heavy hand it to them every time. Someone like me sometimes, where I'm doing a game and they mention it once that you need to go here, and if I miss it, I'm just screwed. I have to look it up or something. You know what I mean? And for a new game, you can't always look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. I really like what I see in this trailer. But do you want to just talk about maybe overall taking in this and just everything else we've seen? Or how are you feeling, I guess, just generally about this, going into the last couple of weeks here before the game comes out?
To reiterate my journey with this game, it was, oh no, they should have just done what we said, which is, I'm sure, what everyone says. But we had that episode where we laid out, it was over a year ago, what we want from the next Sonic game, what we think would be cool, and we described something similar to this, executed very differently, and we were very negative on the perception that we have at what we saw at the time. I got a little bit more excited when they had snappier and edited trailers. Does that necessarily mean anything? Because really, I'm not going to be playing in a snappily edited trailer. I'll be playing the whole video game. I will say though, I'm just getting higher and higher on this game. I want to believe. You know what I mean?
I think that's always been our thing. Is that we want it to. Of course, we want it to be good. We want it to build off the hype of the Sonic movies having the Cinderella story that the first one did, and then the second one like following up on that and improving what the first one did. So I feel like they have all the hype on their side, and they're like, I feel like the marketing for like the first couple teasers wasn't good. But I agree that like, okay, finally, like this is what they should have shown from the get go, in my opinion. Because I feel like I feel like that we're seeing so much more, and it doesn't seem as empty as before. But maybe they added this stuff after the first teaser we saw. Maybe they used that as a thing and be like, do people feel that this is empty? We don't know. We've been editing this game or making this game for 2 years now. We need that live feedback. So maybe that's what that was too.
I will say, and having, we were playing Sonic 06, just seeing a Sonic game run at 60 frames per second, which we will be playing this on PS5 where we know, it should. Considering that the floor is the Switch and nothing against the Nintendo Switch, I love it, and I love the games I have on it. But knowing that that's the floor, unless this experience is like, all retexture is replaced and the character models and this and that, which I don't really think they are that much. I'm expecting 60 frames a second. Just seeing Sonic run at 60 FPS. And now, granted, we had that with Sonic Colors Ultimate Remaster, whatever that was on PS4. Having that there, but like seeing just the running in an open space at 60 FPS, that does feel very good. And I'm seeing that, and I'm feeling that from seeing it. You know what I mean? Yes, I do still see pop in. There's a part in this trailer where he runs up to an enemy. Beyond the enemy is a pulley, and some crates pop up pretty close to where Sonic is. Like, he's really close to them. They pop up around the pulley. There are trees that don't have shadows until he gets close enough to them. There are some issues like that I don't think will be quote unquote fixed. That's just going to be the nature of what the game is. I don't think it's going to be a technical marvel. It's one of those things where I hope the game is good enough for what it is. I hope that it sells good enough for what it is. I want them to see this game as worth doing, because the last one came out 5 years ago. I don't know how long that they've been working on this game for. They might have had different ideas, but I want it to feel worth it so that the next game they make, and I know we did a whole episode about Sonic Stranding, but whatever the next iteration of this game is, I think is going to be very cool. I think a lot of issues we might see, both in terms of technical things and just game design ideas. Like, I'm sure there'll be a thing where like, yeah, but all you really need to do is spin dash into a jump air dash, and all of us, like, you break the game doing that, dude. Why didn't they think? Like, there's going to be something in this game, in an open world game like this, where it's like, yeah, if you just jump off a rail mid one and stomp back on it and speed dash, he goes 3 times faster. There's going to be something weird in there that's going to break the gameplay, where they'll think of something differently for the second one. But I'm up on this game. I'm excited for this.
So you're buying, like, I know we're buying the game, but like if it was a stock, and maybe it dipped a little bit after the first couple trailers, but it's going back up, and you're still buying after this.
I'm still purchasing this video game.
Yep. I agree with everything you said. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the recency bias of playing Sonic 06, but yeah, it's nice to see 60 FPS. I think it's the first 60 FPS 3D Sonic, isn't it?
That's brand new for sure. Because again, there's that Sonic, that's a Wii game that's on PS4. Like, yeah, it's going to be 60. But and that even doesn't feel consistent sometimes.
I want to say this game doesn't look doesn't look next gen, but like this looks
this next gen as Sonic might get for a while.
Yeah. I also like that they showed some more of the enemies, and I'm digging more of the enemy design, because originally they showed us to like just like the pods basically, and then a couple like one or two different enemies that just kind of looked fine. But like I like that a lot of them like they look similar but not. Even some of them look like the angels from Evangelion to a certain extent.
Kind of very geometrical, but weirdly natural.
And I love the look of that. For me, my main thing is, will the story be entertaining? I like Sonic Forces was entertaining enough to get us through in a bad way to get us through that game. Because after the first level, it kind of just quickly derailed itself, in my opinion.
More like Sandhill.
We thought that was the funniest shit. That was really the big comedy for that game. But yeah, like I hope the story is good enough to like wanting me to progress to the next island or whatever we're doing to the next boss.
Whatever's going on in this stupid game.
Yeah. And I just hope that the replayability of fighting the same enemies. It looks like there's enough here that like there's going to be variety, and I hope they're all like, I don't know if there's certain ones that are just in certain areas. I'm imagining there will be, but I hope there's enough in each section where there's like 5 or 6 where it isn't just the same 2.
Yeah, that's what can hurt an open world game, is if you have 6 enemy types. You know what I mean? Like, I think Breath of the Wild just barely got away with the lack of variety that it had, because of the weird at the time, very modular, like everything builds upon each other, interacts and bounces off each other's in different ways. Like, it makes them feel right.
Environmental stuff though in that game as well, though. Like,
absolutely,
that like, okay, you're fighting the same enemy, but like, okay, now one of them is on top of a structure shooting an arrow,
and they can pick something up that you dropped, or stuff like that, where it feels, and that's a game where you can go in any direction, and you can go to my end of the game area could be your first area you went to. Legitimately, you start in the middle of that map. You can go in any direction, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be different because this is presumably you all start in the one island, and then you go to the second island, and then to the third, right? However many there are. I'm sure there's probably 7 for each Chaos Emerald, I imagine, or maybe one final one at the end. So like, we'll see how that works. We did talk about enemies earlier, and how like, if they all kind of get stronger as you go on, do the first areas feel like a slog? I really do think that there needs to be some enemies that just stay the same, because you should be able to go back to an area that you quote unquote mastered and just demolish everything. That's like the Dark Souls, Elden Ring type of mentality. You just immediately demolish because you know these people, right? Maybe some skills just obliterate some of the weaker enemies, and you can just do them. But I think this world design, well, it still feels goofy to see the flying, the hovering platforms and rails and stuff. Like, I get it, Sonic's always had ever since the beginning, not rails, but the just floating platforms. It feels weird to see that in an open world. It feels incomplete. Still, that's just what the game is. We're just gonna have to see what it's like. I don't necessarily think it's that big of a deal to me anymore. Them popping in, like in this part of the trailer we just saw, where literally a shadow popped in over a rock wall while the flying rails popped into the background. Like, I still feel like maybe that pop-in needs to be a fade-in or something. Like, I don't know. Like, I still feel like there is lots of room to grow.
Do that? Have like the fade-in? I feel like it's almost like there's like a haze.
Yeah, lots of games will have like a level of detail, several levels of detail, where like in the far distance, the tree is a low resolution PNG, right? And as you get closer, it turns into like an N64 polygon, and then another one that's more complicated. And then when you get close enough, but yeah, it's always a transition where you see almost them both at the same time, kind of a haze into each other. Here it is very much no rail. Just there. And it feels jarring to see a grayish blue sky that all of a sudden has a black circle in it. You know what I mean? It definitely sticks out more than just...
some of this stuff could be, since Nintendo posted this video as well, makes me think that maybe some of this shots are on Switch, so maybe the fade in isn't as bad on PS5 and whatnot. I'm hoping, but like it's not really a deal breaker for me though. Like,
no, the game's gonna be.
Honestly, that's part of Sonic's
is.
identity to me. You just sometimes you see shit and sometimes you don't, and it fucks you over, and that is what it is.
That's
Sorry.
true. You ran
That's
too.
been around
You
since
ran
the first
too
one.
fast, buddy.
Ran too fast.
Yeah.
Or you didn't look at the direction you look at this direction the correct way, whatever.
And the game called your parents and told you didn't do your homework, and now you have detention.
Yeah.
That's what the game is. Do you have any kind of just final thoughts about this game going into its release? Like, do you think there's going to be any final like prediction that you might have to make about this?
I haven't seen any of the scores, and I don't want to really predict that just because. I mean, I've seen like some headlines, and I want to save that for our next episode. So I don't really want to give a prediction like that where I think it's going to be good or bad. I just hope that this game is, or I guess I'll expect that this game will be 30 plus hours. I personally am always about shorter games, but I just feel like this kind of game is going to be. I'm thinking if you just maybe there's a way to just steamroll through like the single like the story, and there's gonna be a lot of optional stuff. If I remember correctly, one of the trailers says you can do these little side quests where like you have to get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. I think that's cool, but I feel like if you just go from point A to point B, maybe it's like 20 hours. But I feel like generally you're spending 30 hours on this game. That's kind of my expectation. So we'll see how that goes for me as someone who doesn't have as much time to play games. And also God of War, which is my favorite franchise, is coming out literally the day after this, so it's going to be hard for me.
You have a God of War podcast? I think not. You're not playing that game until January, bud.
I know. So for me, I think it's going to be that length of a game. And I just hope I have, like I said, I just hope I have enough fun in it in terms of like fighting the enemies. I hope that there's not Sonic BS that I don't like, because there's some BS that I just am okay with. It is what it is. Maybe it's because of a technical thing or whatnot. I just hope like there's not. I don't die in bullshit ways. I don't get thrown off the map because I didn't know I needed to hit this specific spot this way.
Yeah.
Or just straight RNG, or this didn't load in. So I hope there's nothing like that. But it looks like this is already more polished than some other Sonic games I've seen or played. So that gets me my hopes up. But I'm also trying to be like cautiously optimistic, where this is just a trailer. This is the best trailer we've seen, and maybe they learned that from the previous ones, that hey, we need to like show more action or something. So this could all just be the action that you won't. Maybe half of this trailer you'll see in a half an hour. I hope not. I hope it just keeps me going. Sonic's about going fast, momentum, and I hope I get all that. So for me, it's just like I want 30 hours of just nonstop action, or just grinding rails, getting to point A to point B. And if I fail a quest, I want to be able to do it probably on the second or third try. I don't want to have to be like attempting 10
I gotcha.
Tries.
Or
on
if
a
it is,
boss
it's one that's you
bullshit.
don't have to do this now. You can come back later type of thing when you're stronger. I'm with you on a lot of that. I do have one more question for you. Let's say, and I don't mean to be this way. I want to stay optimistic. Let's say the game is bad. Does Sonic Team put this in the rotation of self-awareness jokes, where it makes fun of itself in this idea? Or do you think there'd be too much pride on the line to make fun? Like, this is a company that's willing to make fun of Sonic 06 a little bit in some forms. You know what I mean?
Sonic Boom there, the TV show, that they like making jokes about the games.
Yeah.
So something like that, you mean?
Do you think let's just pretend this game is going to be bad. Do you think that they're going to be like not Sonic 06 bad, but like Metacritic 50?
Which was an average, I feel like, for Sonic. So
Metacritic 50. You know what I mean? Like, do you think how willing do you think they'll be to like join in and just be a little self-aware about? I
think it would take years. I mean, this game feels like a little bit I don't want to say pretentious, because I think that's not the right like verbiage or whatever I'm trying to use. But just like I feel like they really tried with this one. Like, you could tell they put effort in. They really tried to completely change what Sonic is with this.
This is a game where he's in an open field and piano music plays, and not the butt rock.
This honestly this is like, besides I say like the Werehog and 06, I feel like that was the last two that this is a complete tone shift for Sonic. So
Okay.
I guess that's both exciting and also nervous about what that can bring. But yeah, I feel like if it's a stinker, I think it might be a couple years, might be another 5 years before we get a Sonic game, and they'll just keep porting the old ones into something. I don't know, like to another deluxe edition remastered thing. They'll bring back Sonic Adventure. If anything, maybe if this sucks off, they'll be like, "Fuck it, we'll bring Sonic Adventure
We'll do what
back."
you fucking want,
and it won't even be
Fine.
good still.
But you'll love it.
But you'll love it, I guess.
All
we don't
right.
know what you want.
And we
but yeah.
love you, and we don't know what you want, except that the fact that you want to follow us on Twitter at Sonic Movie Show, on TikTok at Sonic Movie Show, on YouTube and any podcast platform of your choice at Sonic Movie Show. I'm on Twitter at Ethan Absolutely. Devin is on Twitter at CursonaFun. Let us know what you think about your final thoughts on Sonic Frontiers. We're getting real close, guys. Pretty soon we're going to have to review this game.
I'm praying now. I'm just praying like I see the light, God. Bring it home.
Oh, Lord, it's bright. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Have a fantastic day. That's right. I say it at the end.